Chinese tour group showing up at the pagoda. Just sitting over here by the park. You'll find these all over town. Alright guys, it's Sunday. Sunday fun day. Well, at least for me, because I don't have to work tomorrow. Again, it's a holiday. This particular holiday is the commemoration of the King's Father Day. I'm not sure what all that entails. Most businesses will be open. It's not a major holiday, but it is a bank holiday, which means schools, banks, they will be closed for the day. They do have a lot of holidays here, like 28, I think, every year. But a lot of them are what I would call minor holidays, where it will be business as usual, except for the banks and the schools, but everything else is the same. And then there's a few big ones where everything will shut down, and Siem Reap will look almost like a ghost town for a day or two, or like Chumben, almost 3 days. Somebody asked me in the comments if there was anything I miss from back home that is not easily acquired here. I also found out this person has traveled to this area before, so they already know about the old saying they have here: same, but different. But if you've never been here, that saying is, the only way to really fully understand it is by coming here and spending some time here. I heard that saying before I even left. It's all over Southeast Asia. Everything same, but different. And the concept is easy enough to grasp. Like, everything here is the same, but it's just a little different because it's a different part of the world. And you kind of intellectually understand it, but once you live here for a while, you begin to really adopt that saying. It really sinks in what it actually means. Like, there are things you will recognize here. They look very familiar to what you're used to back in the West. Take pencils. I'll use that for an example. Pencils. Everybody knows what a pencil is. Not a big deal, right? You see a pencil, you buy a pencil, you use a pencil. Eventually the pencil gets used up, you buy another one. And pencils are the same here. If you go into any bookshop, you'll see pencils. You may buy the pencils. Same. But they're so different, and in this case it's in terms of the quality. They are really not well made here, so you will go through them a lot faster. You'll have to sharpen them a lot more than you would a typical pencil back in a Western country. So it's the same, but different. Now, sometimes those differences are negative, like the quality of things are not as high as what you might expect or be used to. But a lot of time, the quality is surprisingly better. And again, it's the same, but it's different, except this time in a positive way. Like in a developing country like Cambodia, you would expect the food to be lower quality. You would think because they are a poorer country than yours that you will be eating gruel. And that is just not true. The food here is fresh, it's delicious, and it's very filling, and it's really cheap. So you could find some of the same foods back home, but it would be different because back where I come from anyway, we process a lot of food. Everything's pre-packaged. You know, you got the chemicals in there to preserve it, and you pay a lot of money for that process. But here, it's just almost ridiculously, criminally fresh and inexpensive. It's made right before your eyes most of the time. You know what's in there. You got all the ingredients. You can add things if you want. So yeah, same, but different. So are there things I miss or find hard to access here that I could get back in the USA? Yes. The short answer is yes. Healthcare here is not great. They do have, you know, hospitals and doctors and pharmacies and all that, but they're not as well regulated as you might be used to. So they're not, it's just not as good. A lot of people will simply, if they do have a medical need that needs attention, they will simply fly to Bangkok. Thailand has really, really good hospitals there in Bangkok, world class, Western trained and educated professionals. And people will often say, if you have a medical emergency that does not require immediate attention, but you need a procedure done or something, you should fly to Bangkok and have it done there. So yeah, maybe healthcare, transportation would be another one. At least here in Cambodia and Siem Reap, there is no public transportation here. It's there's no bus lines running. I mean, there are buses, but those are for like tours and to go from town to town to town. Nothing in just for the city. No proper taxi cabs. Of course, no trains or subways or anything like that. So you either walk, get a motorbike, take a tuk-tuk, and those are about your only options to get around. So transportation would be another one. If you are disabled in any way and your movements are impeded, especially walking, this would probably not be the place for you to go, simply because there are no accessible wheelchair ramps. Even being able-bodied, it's very hard to get around some of these streets. There are just huge holes sometimes in the streets or sidewalks. There are no safety warnings around them, so if you're walking at night and you don't know there's a giant hole in the middle of the sidewalk, you know, it would be very easy, if you're not paying attention, to step into one and twist your ankle or worse. So I can't imagine what it's like if you're on crutches or if you have if you're bound to a wheelchair. It would just not be convenient at all. It would be the opposite. It would be very inconvenient because the infrastructure is not fantastic in a lot of places. That is, however, improving. I showed you in my last video some of the improvements they're making. Of course, that all has to do with aesthetics, a lot of it, because they want it to look pretty. There are some areas of town that are not so touristy that are in desperate need of upgrades. And like I said, I hope they choose to keep expanding and improving those areas also. But a lot of times they will do things just for the sake of the tourists, and they will spend a lot of money in those areas where tourists like to go to improve and fix those areas. High season's coming up, starting in November. That means a lot more tourists coming through. So they're fixing the sidewalks, getting everything cleaned up down by my area of town and downtown. And like I said, I hope that continues. Let's go down this road. I hope that continues in the outer lying areas. Really, I can't think of anything else. I mean, there are certain items that you might like, brand names that are in stock for a limited amount of time. Then you might have to wait to get them again. You always see people asking in the Facebook groups, does anybody know where I can pick up some Hellmann's mayonnaise or something like that? Just a particular item, a particular brand name. And most of the time people will say, well, most of the time they could have it at Looking Mall. You could go to the Anchor Market, they might have it. You could go to Tai Hoot, they might have it, but then again, they might not. They might be out of stock and don't know when it's gonna get another shipment in. So if you see something you really, really like and really, really want, if you see it, I would say buy it then to avoid that situation. But for me, they always have a brand, an off-brand, local brand for just about anything you could want in a brand name from the West. So all is not lost. Keep in mind, for the Western brand name products, you will be paying the Western brand name prices, which will probably be more expensive than you would be able to get them where you come from. Reason being, when they import items like that, there's a huge import tax, and that gets passed on to the consumer. So just keep that in mind. You could get sticker shocked when you see, you know, $5 for a very small jar of, you know, peanut butter, a brand name peanut butter that you could get for $1.99 back home. So keep that in mind. Other than those things, I can't really think of anything. Like I said, certain conveniences from back home you will probably miss. Healthcare is a big one, especially, I mean, if you have any kind of health problems, you might want to consider doing a lot of research before actually moving here. Make sure if you take medication that those medications are available in the pharmacies here. Be careful when you go to the pharmacies and make sure you're always getting exactly what you want. Some pharmacies are known for selling you placebos or just selling you the wrong thing, which would not be good. So there are a few that everybody uses, a few pharmacies that everybody uses. They will recommend them to you, and they're pretty easy to find. They're all over. You can barely go down the street without seeing a pharmacy. Just be sure you pick the right one. Use your research. Do your research. I guess I can't go down there. I guess we're not allowed to go down there. All right. Oh, that's part of the royal residence. That's why. That's why. That's the back of the royal residence. Not even sure if I'm supposed to be in this part, to tell you the truth. The gate was open, but I'm not sure what the rules are. Nobody's yelled at me yet, so I think I'm good. Yeah, that's about all I can think of. I don't really miss much from back home. Everybody said, you know, after your first 2 or 3 months here is usually the tipping point for a lot of people. This is when people start getting homesick, miss everything from home. and they struggle on whether they should stay or go back. And a lot of them go back, unfortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it. But I have not had that yet. I'm not been homesick. Except for once, when I went to Brava here. But I was homesick for Siem Reap. After a couple days, I was ready to come back to the Reap. Because I love this town. But there's never been a time when I thought, you know what? I need to go back to the United States and have my pizza rolls, big screen TVs. I know the things I thought I would miss, I don't miss. And I was prepared to say, oh man, I know I'm going to miss this, so get my mind ready to accept that I can't have it anymore. And maybe I did too good of a job because I just don't miss it. Would it be nice? Yes. But after a while, you come to realize that, you only need certain things to really be happy. It's all about an adjustment in your mind, not so much it's a want versus need thing. And I think that there's people that just truly don't understand what that actually means. Like I need a place to live, I need food, I need water. But I don't, and I want things, but I don't need those things. My life will go on perfectly fine without those things. Here we are in the gardens. Taking a walk through empty parking lot. It's too early for the bats to be out, but these are the trees they roost in. And if you come here anytime at night, right before the sun goes down, you'll get a great show if you like bats. Some of those things are pretty big, and they'll be flying all around here making their bat noises. Pretty cool. So yeah, I think that about covers everything. I really appreciated that comment and the question. It seemed like a simple question, hey, do you miss anything? But if you think about it, it's kind of complicated. Like, what kind of things would you miss? And for me, like I said, it's not much. And there are things I would like to have, but as I said before, the pros for me of living here far, far outweigh any cons of living here. Because I just love it here so much. I like the whole vibe of the place. And as long as Cambodia is willing to have me, letting me renew my visa, I will be staying as a guest in their country. And plus, for a long time, Cambodia had this reputation. It was called the Wild West of the East. It was called the Wild West of the East because there was just this vibe that anything could happen, kind of a lawless outlaw kind of thing to it, kind of vibe. And thrill seekers like to come here because it was way off the beaten path when they first opened the borders back up to foreigners and allowed other people to come in. And it got a reputation for a while as just being an outlaw country. So people flocked here thinking it was cool and all that. That's mostly gone, but there is still part of that, and I think a part of that will always remain here in Cambodia. Because even compared to countries like Thailand, Laos, Malaysia, all the surrounding countries, even Vietnam, they're much more affluent. Their infrastructures are much better. They have, public transportation in place. Little conveniences are in order there. But here, it's none of that. So there is always going to be that vibe. And I'll be the first one to tell, and I've said this before, I'll be the first one to tell people, you really do have to have a certain kind of mindset to live here. You really do. It's not just enough to do research and say, okay, I know it's going to be hot, and I know about this and this and this. You really have to have a certain mindset. Like, you really have to sometimes think, I just don't care about all this other stuff. And some people can't get past that. It's like, I just don't care. Some people will freak out, oh, what am I going to do about my TV or my video games, or, you know. And you just have to have that mindset. You don't care. It doesn't matter. And if you have that mindset and not focus on those physical things that you think make you happy, you will do very well here. You just, it's like everywhere else, really. Every day I get up, I just live my life. If it's a work day, I go to work. I get stuff to eat. I get stuff to drink. I like walking around, looking at the sights, sounds, smelling the smells. I've never been more relaxed in my entire life, that's for sure. And it just doesn't, it just fits me, is what I'm saying. So like I said, I can't tell anybody whether you should or shouldn't move here. But if you do have questions, I will be happy to answer them, give you my opinion, if you keep in mind that those opinions are mine and the way I personally feel. So if you come here and don't get the same thing, it's not that I'm lying, maybe we're just different people. I think that's an important distinction to remember. Yeah, that's some nice statues in the center of the park there. All right, I think I've talked long enough. Thank you for that comment. I told you it would make a good topic, and I hope I covered everything. If you want to know anything else, leave me a comment. Otherwise, I will talk to you in the next one.